so that's the music, guys. speaking in generalizations.
I was also speaking in
And
generalizations.
his generalization was like, I'm sure the YouTube people haven't heard what I said, so let me kind of repeat it. His generalization teach guys that no means no, consent, whatever, it's whatever. But like he now added at the end, which is the part where he said was the but. He added at the end and says, ladies, please, if you don't know a guy and he offers you to go and stay over at his house because you've had too much to drink and you can go home in the morning, don't go. Now, I don't see a problem with that statement. I see it as you have to remember as well. Some of the people that go out partying or whatever, they're different ages. Some people are 18.
But I think
For
you're
him, it's their
talking
first
from
time.
that perspective, but I was telling you why
Yeah, but
women
that
got
was-
mad at him for that statement.
Yeah,
I wasn't disputing it. I was just saying
Yeah, but
they got
I guess
mad
my
for
question
why.
was that was it right to get mad at him? Because if you want to, you can read what he's saying wrongly. You can decide to be upset because it's like it's okay. It's not related, and it's a bit of a reach. I'm going to make a big jump right now. So it's like people that say Black Lives Matter, and then the white people are taking offense because they've chosen not to understand what that person is saying. Because the person saying Black Lives Matter is not saying white lives doesn't matter. It's just saying, yo, this is a point of view. He's
Yeah.
not belittling the other side.
But
He's not saying anything negative about doing whatever.
he's
It's a
giving
point
advice,
of view. They're
which
saying
isn't
that,
bad.
yo, and it's a very specific advice because you know what? The one that we've
The
always
thing is, I hear what you're
the one
saying.
that's
It doesn't
discussed a
matter
lot.
if it was specific or otherwise.
The one that's discussed a lot was like you say that okay, oh, you shouldn't tell women that they should not wear short skirts. I hear that. You shouldn't tell anybody what to dress,
Okay,
what to
let's-
wear, whatever. But this was very, very specific, very narrow, which was like, yo, don't know him, is asking you to go over to his place.
Which is very good advice.
He's just saying that these people are animals. Let's not wait.
But this is where you're not listening again, and this is why women went mad at him. This is where you're not listening. I
Okay,
want you
we'll
guys to
listen.
listen very carefully. That statement right there, what you're saying, oh, he's saying that these guys are animals. This is why women are saying, stop excusing it. You don't need to say that. It's not needed because no.
Where's
Let
the
me
excuse?
finish. You saying simply, throwing the conversation in a way where it's like, oh, you know what? Yeah, women, some guys just can't. It's just different timing.
No, he's not excusing the guy.
You're not
Still saying-
understanding me as well.
Do you know what? It's like a. Okay. Let me ask you a question.
This
Let me
conversation
ask
making me
personal
sad. Like I
question.
literally want to
Let me
cry.
ask you a personal question.
I want to cry
Do you
so
have- do you
bad.
have- do you have a- do you have
Because
a-
this is what
do you have
girls
a
are trying to
okay,
talk
if you're, let's say
about.
your junior sister. You have a junior sister.
Yes, I do.
So your junior sister was going out partying. Would that advice be legit? Like, yo, if
You know why
you
the
drink too
advice would
much
be
and a
legit?
guy is
The advice would be
thingy,
legit because I
don't
give it
go.
to her every day, not just
okay,
when she's going to the party.
Let me now take it from there. So if the advice is legit when she's going to something, couldn't she take offense that you're implying that it's her fault? Just
Which
the
is
same way
what
you're
people are
choosing to
getting
take
mad at him
offense.
for.
That's what I'm
No,
saying.
you're
Couldn't she take
policing me
offense?
right now, and I'm trying to explain to you why people got mad at that guy. Do you follow where I'm coming from?
I'm not asking. I guess the thing is, I'm not asking you why people got mad at. Twitter people get mad for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, but that's
There's
not,
always
it's not
somebody.
all sorts of
no
reasons
matter
though.
view.
It's one reason. It's
No
the
matter
reason
what
that
view.
he explained away
No.
the very thing he was seemingly supporting. People feel like that's disingenuous.
No matter what view you have on Twitter, there's always somebody upset.
Well,
My
yeah.
question wasn't explain why people are getting upset. My question was, what is our view on that?
Which I said several times.
why-
Nothing wrong. It's good advice. It's good advice to
And
give
that's
someone.
that.
However, I would give that advice every day, including the day when it happened. I wouldn't give it on that day. It's not like my sister will not come and tell me something just happened to her. I'm gonna hold her. I'm gonna give her a hug. We're gonna deal with it. But she's gonna remember that. I'm gonna still repeat it. But it's almost like when someone does something and you say, you want to say, I told you so. You both know I told you so. But right in the minute when that person is expressing what happened, it's not the time for you to repeat, I told you so. So even though it's a good point, they've learned their lesson and it's advice and you were right, it's just not nice for them to hear. And that's what people feel like when they say they're not being heard or they can't talk, because you just want to say what you're saying and have that be it. You don't want anyone saying, but
that's possibly the reason why a lot of people just keep it to themselves.
Thank you very much. DJ Sean, you understand.
I hear you. I mean,
all right, let's move on because
let's move
we can be here. We've rooted
to
him.
summarize, because they told me to the Dracula of the thingy.
Well, I think no. I think at the end of this show, I think Cococure should put a list of helplines and places
as well in the club.
where producer can put some helplines where ladies can go and get some help and advice from.
Before I forget my point, I had this habit of really forgetting what I was about to say. To summarize, what were we talking about, Self?
Justice for Uwa.
Yeah, so...
And obviously...
I feel like I'm going to repeat myself. There's no point.
Repeat, because we might have missed it on one platform.
You said that his timing was wrong. I disagree with that, because like there's no better time because it's not like, oh, somebody is discussing they were raped. Twitter is having a conversation about rape. That was what was happening. So somebody wasn't saying I got raped and he's like, oh, you shouldn't go outside and stay in someone's house. Twitter was having a collective group of people, whether you like their views and things, everyone was having, because I think it's also important for men and women to speak on these issues, to see where the disconnect is, why these things are happening. So he threw a point of view in there that really deserved to be looked at and to be paid attention to, and to be thought through intellectually. Well, you know what? If I can get anything from this, is that Twitter is not the place for intellectual discourse. That's
we again. We all know that.
Not dissing anybody, but
we know that.
But
it's the best place for you to get into it because it's funny.
What's the next topic?
So
Mr. Shane,
the next topic.
Your mic is here.
Come join us.
Yes, please. Welcome, Shane.
Give us the clap, applause.
We've got an intro.
Round of applause. Yeah.
Right. If you don't sit down.
I think they changed it to 1 meter today.
So 1 meter.
I think
it's distance. Let's say. Yes.
What jingle?
I thought we're just going in.
No, just come on. It's not going to be between. It's going to be like at the end, but.
Right, guys. So next topic, we are going to look at Black Lives Matter.
Wow, we're going from.
Yes, we are,
what
because
do you call it
I did ask, and you. Not yet. Ooh, good point.
What's that? What's that?
That's a bit.
Dream team.
That's gonna go into this topic.
Dream team. What's that?
A little bit. It's gonna it comes into that though, so it's gonna be in the topic. Let's try and stay on track.
Although my views, somewhat.
So
you know your views are controversial. So today we're gonna talk right now about Black lives. Is the cause lost? That's the big question. What are your opinions around that and why?
what do you mean by is the cause lost?
So do Black Lives Matter? The hashtag, is it just a big facade? Are we just paying money to this random shadow company who we don't know who's behind, who's got loads of millions now?
I don't know.
What people actually pay money into?
Obviously, they've received a lot of donations and loads of GoFundMes and T-shirts.
I don't think the cause
and
of
trademarks.
Black Lives Matter is. I think Black Lives Matter is an idea. It's not any organization or whatever. People are going out on the street, whether somebody says Black Lives Matter or not. I think. What's it called? For the first time, I read something somewhere. I don't even know. Maybe someone said this somewhere. That maybe it's even a song, that there's never been any progress without pain. So like, I feel like whatever's going on
Sounds
now,
like a Kanye West song.
Yeah.
Kanye,
Sounds like something Kanye would say.
Wait, which Kanye? Which Kanye?
Yeah. So so I don't know about any shadowy organizations or any people doing GoFundMe or whatever. I mean, that's their thing. Whether it's legit, whether it's not.
It was the main organization. Obviously, they had their trademark.
American one.
They retracted the trademark of Black Lives Matter from the UK as well, because someone's about to trademark it on Company's House. And it was two white guys.
A non-black person.
Non-black people. They've actually retracted that trademark.
I heard even with the marches that go on as well, I heard it's run by white people as well.
Well, whoever's organizing, right?
White people are quite organized, aren't they? And they care about stuff. They care about plants, for God's sake.
And obviously, the whole
They're
idea is that
business-minded.
Black Lives Matter is not just about Black people, right? Everybody who believes in it should be able to join the cause. So
Yeah, so your question was, is it a facade or is it done? It's not done. Black Lives Matter wasn't a... People have been fighting for black, not just necessarily black, but they've been fighting for equal opportunities for people of all races, specifically black people.
All races.
So her question was, do Black Lives Matter, right? That was your question. So it's like a two-part question. There's the hashtag, the movement, the social media stuff, and then there's the actual reason why people are protesting equality for specifically ethnic, in this country, ethnic and minorities, black people. So yes, to both of those questions, of course it still matters. The whole social media movement of people posting black squares and all that kind of stuff. So that will die out, obviously. That will die out. That's not going to last. In fact, we've already seen probably a lot of it has already started coming down from the last 2 weeks. So that's going to die out. But what it has done, though, is to raise a lot of awareness from individuals sitting in their living rooms to companies to be more aware about what their diversity and inclusion policies are at work.
Sorry to interrupt you, but especially on the topic of companies gaining awareness, do you think that they've gained awareness, or there's a lot of performative celebration going on?
I don't think there's anything wrong with performative celebration. And I'll say why I say that, because companies are not people. Companies are entities. They're there for profit and profit alone. If slavery worked, if we're going back to slavery tomorrow, all those companies will switch back to slavery. If it looks like it's out of fashion, they switch out of fashion.
Absolutely. They're going to ride what's popular today. If there was another slogan tomorrow about hiring pigs and making pigs the head of your company, the Nikes of this world would have pigs as their Instagram picture, because that's what is the flavor of the day. And these companies, they don't want to look bad, right?
Yeah, they don't want to look bad. And
social media has just turned the game upside down.
Yep.
Right. So you can have people apologizing for stuff that they really meant, that they wrote on Twitter or on Instagram 6 years ago. It's come to light now, and people are blasting them and deading them on social media. But they're saying, "Oh, you know what? I didn't mean it." Like I saw this one about that I don't know his name,
Connor.
a white guy who raps in Yoruba.
Oh yeah, he was problematic.
Man,
and
like,
he
so
was very
I looked at the
rude.
guy's posts and I'm just thinking, like, how can anyone...
He said something about Tiwa Savage.
It wasn't just
about,
one thing. He had numerous posts.
I don't even like Nigerian girls.
He talked about black girls, about Nigerian girls.
Blah blah blah.
Well, that old white man.
No, that skinny white boy.
He's not an old guy. He's a young guy. He's a rapper.
The one he's done a few videos out of his car.
Oh, that guy.
That guy.
He's not a rapper. He just sings.
Is he not a rapper?
He just sings.
But the thing is, obviously,
So what did he say?
He said something about Tiwa Savage, and he doesn't do black girls.
He's basically got a lot of posts that he posted from years ago. I don't know how long ago it was.
So they fished it out.
Yeah, of course, man. People fish this stuff out, and he went on Instagram or Twitter or wherever it was, and he was apologizing, saying he didn't mean it and all this kind of stuff. But people don't forget that kind of stuff. And honestly, there's certain things that you say that you don't say as a joke. If you post it one time, you're dumb, you're 15 years old, you're like, oh, okay. You post this thing continuously.
You can't post a racist joke 10 years ago and then think it's not going to be relevant.
And even that, like, obviously, even no matter how insensitive you are, those kinds of things, they have no place on the web.
It's
do you
a
know what I
moral
mean?
thing, right?
Yeah, but personally, I think those kinds of people, you don't just change overnight, right?
I think that was the point I was going to raise, that this whole apology.
Yeah, we're tangenting a little bit.
If you just check the email, everything will be in there.
So what, are we still on the same topic?
Yeah, same topic.
So I'll just finish my point. My point was, and to answer our producer's question, is he had to say, of course. So the hashtag will fade, yes. People are going to ride that wave. The big companies are going to ride it. People like us, who are affected by it on a daily basis, are the ones who need to be more aware of how it affects us in our daily lives and making sure the agenda doesn't die.
Well, when
i.e. doing things like volunteering in your local community, helping black businesses, purchasing from black businesses, having the conversations that we're having today with your family members who may not be black, with your work, with your colleagues who will not be black. At the end of the day, you're pushing an agenda of people, remind them the atrocities that have been committed in the past. That's one thing that might not change anything, but it gives people the understanding that there is inequality in this country, and there has been
Yes.
inequality in this country, and it's not a level playing field. And so once people
Yeah.
start to understand that that's the case,
Yeah, but what?
you know, these
It's
things
a
they don't change overnight, but it's an awareness for everyone
But
else.
what
to
do
then
you
take a
what do
different
you what
stance.
do you feel will change that inequality though? Do you feel like this Black Lives Matter thing is gonna change this inequality, or do you think is a change that has to come from us? Because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine today, and he said the problem with this racism thing. I mean, yeah, there's racism everywhere, but the problem comes from within our society.
Ah, I
You know what I mean?
From us as well.
What from
Yeah, I
us?
mean,
No, and I'll say, I'll say, the major one thing is the black on black crime.
Nah, let's not go back to that. So we talked about that.
Sean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can I
But
just
you
drop
need
you a
to.
little gem?
Yeah.
96% of white people kill white people too. White on white crime.
Yeah,
is
but
as prolific as black on black crime.
if they're killing each other, that's them.
Yeah, but the point is, where it becomes an issue and where you're going to use this stereotype and hurt yourself is the fact that it's not a negative statistics. It's just fact. More black people kill more black people, just like more white people kill more white people. It's a lot more to do with proximity.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not going to agree with that. It's not a problem for black people. We don't disproportionately kill each other and others. We kill each other just as much as everyone else kills
It's just
themselves.
crime. At the end of the day,
And,
it's
and,
actually
and,
just
and
crime.
also,
It's just
they're
crime.
white or white.
and also, what he did say is that obviously with the Jewish people as well, they had a problem where people were not like they had this racism thing with Jewish people as well, and Jewish people thought to themselves, you know what, let's stick together and build our own businesses and stick to our own businesses and buy from each other, and that's why the Jewish people are one of the richest in the world at this
They
moment
were
in
still
time.
targeted
And
killed
yeah,
en masse
but the thing
because
is,
of those things.
the
So
thing is,
prejudice
we
doesn't-
yeah, but the thing is, we too as black people, why can't we
I get
also
you, though. We
support?
invite everybody to the cookout. That's one of our problems.
I think Jewish.
Stop that.
I think Jewish people. I mean, I don't know population or numbers. I think like Jewish.
6
when
million
you
died
say
in the
Jewish,
Holocaust.
you're calling. I'm not even talking about just the people that live in Israel, but Jewish people all over the world. It's a group of people that have something that makes them black people. It's just a color of
the
our skin.
uniting
We're
factor.
culturally different.
Yep.
We speak different languages. We
Yep.
have different aspirations. So why are we bundling
What
together
brings us
to,
together?
you know?
And this is what, you know, when we talked about black last or 2 weeks ago, I was saying this is one of the reasons why it's difficult for black people to unite like that, because when you try and categorize people by the color of their skin, you're not really uniting them by
Very
anything.
vague.
You've got black people that live in a continent in Africa, and then you've got them who live in a continent in the Caribbean or subcontinent, whatever, who are not united by anything but the color of their skin. And to Falabi's point, Jewish people, they're united by a lot, you know, and
Their
it's
faith
they
is
take their faith very,
strong.
very seriously,
That's
and
their
their language
identity.
and their culture. So there's, you know, obviously people make this comparison between Jews have suffered, black people have suffered. What are black people doing to get out of that suffering? So I think it's an okay comparison to make on the face of things, but there's a lot of deeper stuff that goes in
Yes.
between how the Jewish community take care of themselves, what culturally
You know,
in what cultural way that they actually stick together. And we've talked about the religion, the faith, the language, and all that kind of stuff. Just to your point, Sean, because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago about black people needing to kind of bring themselves out of this stuff. It's two parts. The whole Black Lives Matter thing is two parts. I talked about awareness, and that awareness is not just for white people, Indian people. It's self-awareness. And somebody mentioned already talking about supporting black businesses. That's one of the things. That's stuff that
They're not
we can,
inviting
and that's stuff that we can
everybody
all do, right? That's looking at your brother's business and saying that shit is dope. I can get behind that. It's just little things like that. And of course there'll be infighting. There's infighting in
it's
every
also your brother looking at you
in every culture.
giving you good
But
quality.
this is awareness that even to us who don't think that we're not on a level playing ground, because sometimes we're thinking he's got money, nah, he's all right. A black guy, he's got money, he's all right. But the reality is that's not the same for the most population of black people in this country. The playing ground is not equal. So the Black Lives Matter movement is trying to do two things: raise awareness so that everybody realizes the playing ground is not equal, and then raise awareness for us as black people, as brothers, to do things that we need to do to get ourselves out of the struggle, right? And that's what I was talking about volunteering before. So not everybody has the same opportunities. Not everybody is as, let's
be
say,
able to see
exactly, to see things, to
Like-
understand that universities is something that you could do that might lead to better
Yes.
prospects for you. Not everybody has been kind of like born into the world with, you don't choose your parents,
And
right?
understanding that there's several types of black, and that's one thing as well. There's no good black or bad black, but we have to be able to own these narratives before we can determine what's what.
Yeah.
If you're waiting for someone else or for a white person to tell you what's good, then you're always going to be pandering to someone else's standards. The reason why we have to be able to keep our money in our community, you got to be able to understand that, it's better for your brother to hold on to your money than for it to go elsewhere. That has to come from you. You've also got to have black people who know, okay, do you know what? I've been hired by a black company. I'm going to make sure that I give them a fantastic service. I'm going to make sure that I give back as well.
I struggle with the concept.
Can I just finish my point?
Keep going.
Thank you.
What are you struggling?
I think it has to go both ways.
You know how many times she told you to stop? But keep going. No, cool. Sorry.
I think it goes both ways. As much as you want to say, yeah, go out and support black business. The other day, I went and ordered food from a black business and they ran out of salad. And instead of them to tell me they ran out of salad, they gave me uncooked vegetables that looked like salad. Now, I want to support my black business. I'm the type of person who will go out of my way to eat at a black business that I've never heard of before, simply for that reason. However, I still don't want to have to accept subpar service because of that. Do you see? So that's difficult as well. So we have to also stop inviting people to the cookout. Like this boy, this rapper guy, he's gone and spat 2 or 3 bars in Yoruba. 2 songs have gone viral on Twitter. Everybody's gassed. He's a white gentleman and nothing against him, but he only jumped on that when he was popular, when it was going to help him. Because when they found all the tweets from years ago, they realized he was problematic. Everybody's already invited him to the cookout just because he displayed one thing that we wanted, because it made us look positive in the eyes of another. So as black people, we need to first learn to stop seeking validation from the powers that are working against us. And then we can work on ourselves.
So I was going to say...
Should our next question be cultural appropriation?
Huh? Like cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
It's a bit murky.
I was going to say, right, the concept of the black pound and money staying in this society, I really don't get it, because if you had a black person that was making Chinese food and I wanted to eat Chinese food, then yeah, fine. If there's a black person that owns a internet or, I don't know, broadband company I want to use, yeah, okay. But like we said, I mean, apart from the color of our skin, it's very different to say Jewish money stays in Jewish society. White money stays in white society because they're the ones creating stuff. Like, our money can stay. Most of your money will go to rent. Who's your landlord?
Well, that's why the discussion has to happen.
Let me finish, because you had a long monologue. Sorry,
but you did.
I'm just joking. So yeah, I mean, like your rent, your utilities, your 80% of your money is already gone to white people, whether you like it or not.
But how do we become the landlord? How do you become the
but
landlord?
That's the thing.
Most of the Jewish people are the landlord.
I think discussing the black part, okay, and the thing is, every little helps. Everything you do helps. But I think there's really big ticket items that can take us as a race forward. And that is what I think, that's what I see Black Lives Matter. I think going through like Black Pound is just, I see it as a distraction, to be honest. Because, I mean, and I'll raise another point about the whole, everybody going, I'm a black man, I'm a black woman, I don't tear others down. Come on, next week they're all going to be fighting on Twitter. So let's not even go in that direction. I think structural racism is the issue. It's not about us not spending. The issue is that the system is designed to work against us, that system needs to be brought down. So whether it's like, there needs to be, I'm not even talking about what's the word? It's not, I'm not even talking about that, but I'm saying like, they need to find more ways to, from very young age, to get black kids to balance out.
You're talking about equity, essentially.
So equal opportunities.
We need equity to make up for.
From kindergarten to balance it out. In the workplace to balance it out. So we need quotas. Middle management want this many black people. At the top of the company, want this many black people. When we start doing that, we will move a lot faster than forcing ourselves.
That's one side. I don't think anyone's disagreeing with
that. No, of course.
No, I'm not saying you're disagreeing, but I'm saying that, and I'm not talking about you specific, I'm saying in general, there's all these things that are going on. Like, I'm not saying don't support black business, but I'm saying that isn't going to do much because I believe I'm a capitalist, I believe, and I believe in globalization. It's like you being in Nigeria and say, we're only going to buy cars made in Nigeria when you know that there's better stuff made elsewhere. That's the best way I can understand
That's
that.
a simplified way for you to understand it. But if that's how you understood it, then
it's
that's
not a simplified
that's
way. Let me
really
say what I'm
simple.
saying. See, let me say what I'm saying. So, like, let's say you wanted to buy hair products, for example. I'm using that example because our viewers might be able.
You're
It's not
being sexist.
But hair
go
products.
on, proceed.
Okay, actually, I'm using that example because it's something that you can find. Because if I say if you wanted to buy sofa, I don't know, you might struggle to find a black person. But hair products, you find a black person selling it. Chances are, it's probably you get cheaper, a wider variety. I'm thinking if you go to Pack Cosmetics, it's owned by I think it's Asian people. The thing is, if we try to start limiting ourselves to buy from black places, we don't actually, even as a business.
So sorry. That's not what I was saying. I'm not. I'm
That's
pretty sure
not
that's
what I
not.
Like I said, I didn't say that's what you were saying. I
Okay.
said there's this whole black pound thing
Yeah.
going
Oh,
on.
right. Got you.
That's
Got you.
like-
We just mentioned it as
That's-
one
that's-
thing.
that's a
It's
slightly-
just one of the things that we thought is
And,
a
and
good
just
idea,
to, I just wanted
but-
to touch on what Falabi said. Man, I completely agree with this, man. Like the whole concept of, like trying to keep a black pound in a black neighborhood and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the idea is great, but at the end of the day, and it's the same thing with the jobs, increasing the quotas. You got to be good. I'm not gonna if I own a business and the government have given me a quota that I need to hire a certain number of Asian people, a certain number of black people, I'm only going to hire the best from those bunch. If I'm struggling to find the best from that, what am I going to do?
But that's not possible.
So that's why the grassroots thing. It's the quotas are good, but you need to be good at what you're doing. You need to start from a level where people are getting fair access to education. You're not being discriminated based on where you live.
You have to be able to recognize when you need to apply or when someone is in need of equity.
Yeah.
Because we can talk about equality all the time, but you need to see when someone needs a bit of an extra boost here and there. But that's really hard to pinpoint. So again, like, I don't know how you would expect that or you want to see that happen, but it's very, very hard to say, okay, black people need this amount of equity and Asian people need this amount of equity.
What do you mean? When you say equity, what do you mean?
In terms of, like you said, from kids or black kids from a certain age, right? From school, from a young age, or they need this kind of help. What type of help do you give to them? But how do you quantify that?
I mean, there's certain things you can do.
If our schools are in different places, allocate more resources to us. If our schools are in different neighborhoods and they're not doing great, allocate more resources.
Isn't that still is similar to saying, for me, when someone talks about helping to ensure the black pound stays in the black community, I am hearing all of those things. I'm not just hearing
but that's not
rent or da da da.
Yeah,
let me just say,
yeah.
I'm hearing the only way Jewish people were able to have their communities and circulate their money was because they consciously decided to stick together. That's how they created a community. Then they consciously decided, they were able to have monopolies. Like in New York, when it comes to real estate, you can't touch them. But again, they're very specific as far as where they are. I think you can't just say, let's just focus on systemic racism because all of these things go hand in hand. And when I hear someone say, to keep the pound, the black pound in the black community, I hear all of these things that need to happen in order for that to happen.
I think black pound is good in theory. It's not practical. That's all I'm saying. Because we're all human beings. As much as we may try to, patronize the black business, we'll revert to what is best for us. And you know what? And there's people that decide, what's best for me.
Still want quality.
That's why things like things like it's really difficult if you're being ethical. Like people that decide to buy ethical or buying Waitrose. There's structural changes happening that's encouraging people to go in that direction. But for someone to be like, I'm going to leave my house and I'm going to buy the most expensive,
you got to have the money and the means.
That's what I'm saying. So as a people, we're going to do what is best for us financially, economically, or whatever. But most of the time that's not going to be from buying from the black business.
But that's why I say that. I also said that black businesses have a responsibility to uphold certain standards of service and especially even price. Because in Leicester, for example, we've got two hair beauty shops. There's Stabana's, which is black owned. Stabana's been there since I was a kid. His kid's been to private schools. He makes money from his store. I know that. Then you have Beauty Queens Cosmetics, another branch of the same thing. It's all over the UK, but it's again a bunch of Indian guys, right? Now Beauty Queens came and they had a lot more people. They have a lot more stock. The thing is, Stabana's attitude stinks. Everybody in Leicester can tell you from the first day they go into that store why they're not going to go back.
And
Is that owned by?
But let me tell you
Is that owned by a black person? Yeah.
Let me land. Yeah, that's the black person. I will never stand somewhere and tell someone to go and patronize that business just because the banner's a black person. I never would. So I never made that comment. My point remained that in order for us to be able to keep our pound in our community, we have a responsibility to also have a good standard of service.
Very good service.
Now I'm getting
it's a well-rounded thing. It's not just like do this.
Flipped.
It's gotta be
because the conversation needs to be like black business do better. The conversation can't be black people buy from black business.
Exactly. But it's like my friend, she goes and buys black when it comes to her groceries, but she can afford a car to drive across London to the specific black shop to buy groceries because she's making her point. She has the ability to do that. However, I don't do that. I don't. And my siblings don't. A lot of my girls don't. But there are a lot of things other people do to support the cause. So it's not just one thing, but we have to do a lot more than just focus on the systemic bits because we also have to have pride in ourselves. I think as black people, we need to work on our group esteem. We don't have very much group esteem. We have very high self-esteem. Black people are very confident, very out there. But when it comes to how you feel about your fellow black person, it's not very positive all the time. So we need to work on that.
And that's the point I was trying to make. I was saying, like, obviously, with this whole Black Lives Matter thing, it's a thing where it's an issue where we have to address in our own community and society before we now take matters out and say, okay, boom, we're not getting respected by white people.
Is this not an example of telling a girl that, yo, do not go to that guy's house?
No.
We are being oppressed by someone else.
No.
They have to fix it. We need to enlighten them that they need to fix it.
We need to
asking us to do what exactly? Someone is making sure you can't live where you want to live. Someone is making the system is rigged.
But not everybody is aware of that.
The only thing we can do is rip the system apart.
We rip them apart and also teach the poor other people who are obviously just following that system because it doesn't negatively affect them. They don't see these issues that we're seeing. They're just following the government or whoever. They're just following the status quo. So we need to teach those people, educate them, let them know our plight. Once they understand what we're going through, we can expect empathy or sympathy, but not much more because that's not their lived experience. But then those people come along, they join. That's why Black Lives Matter doesn't have a color in a sense. So it's anyone who supports the cause. You join in and we keep going and then we dismantle the system. There's too few of us for us to dismantle the system by ourselves without us falling victim to the system. So we need those people outside to come in. We need to educate them and be like, yo, we're going to mash this place down and this is why.
And it's the same thing as breaking the system. Everything that you've explained is the exact same thing as breaking the system. Going out, doing the protests, educating your colleagues, whatever it is that you need to do to ensure that the system gets broken down, dismantled and then built up again so that it's more equal for everybody. For example, what the New York governor is doing now, I don't know if you guys have seen the news, how he's, so now it's an illegal offense, or it's illegal basically to race bait, to call the police and race bait someone to get arrested. So that's now illegal. I think that, so basically a lot of reform that's happened in the last 2.5, 3 weeks, but it's based off the fact that they're trying to pull the system down. So people are not happy. People are in the streets, they're protesting. Things are getting burnt down. So these things have to happen, right? It's a form of revolution. And, there can't really be that kind of revolution without with peace. It doesn't work that way. There has to be things have to be shaken. They got to be shaken up, and that's what's happened. So, are we talking about appropriation next?
No, but we haven't really answered the main question.
Oh, right,
Are
okay.
you still
Sorry, Sean.
are you still in support of the Black Lives Matter movement?
Yeah, I believe so, because it's not just about Black lives, like I said. It's about educating everybody so then they get on and understand why. So I'm very much still on it, personally. What about you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I said at the start, it's not just one thing. It's not just one track that you fight. I think you got to put, wherever you feel that you can do what you do. She's about to die. Yeah, so still supporting it. Whether you go out, you help your communities, you support Black businesses, you protest, whatever it is you can do to educate everyone else.
Violence as well, yeah.
He supports violence.
What did
Everybody
you-
supports violence.
Sean, what did you think about that whole the video that you posted on Snap? The EDL, remember the guys? You said, "Oh, this is who the EDL guys are gonna see when they get to London on the weekend."
Which was that one?
There was the roadman going crazy.
Which one?
He was just screaming and talking about when they get there, innit?
Okay,
When the EDL were coming to attack the people because of the statues, they said they were coming to protect the statues.
Yeah, but that's another thing I wanted to highlight actually,
How
because
roadmen reacted.
like he's been saying, like the system is rigged, and even when it came to the protest thing as well, I think the ones last week, the one from Saturday got moved to the Friday, and it's like the first time that protest thing happened when the police fell off the horse, and I felt like when they were dealing with the Black Lives Matter protesters, they used more force. They used the horses. They were charging at the black people. And then when it came to the EDL guys, I felt like the police were scared and everything. So it's like, as much as we're trying to raise this awareness, I feel like it's gonna take a lot more to like get rid of this racism thing, because I feel like this problem is at the top. You know what I mean? Like I feel like some of the government, even people like Trump, I feel like people in the government are racist, even with the councillors saying or something like, oh, people that protest are gonna get fast tracked and within 24 hours they can go jail.
He said a lot of
Preeti
worse things. Yeah.
Preeti Patel. So
And then she turned around and said she goes through racism.
yeah, but it is important, and like he said as well, is like this thing is just not gonna. It's not just us saying, hey, raising up banners. I feel like there is gonna be like as much as there shouldn't be violence, but to make ourselves heard, there's gonna be like loads of more vigorous protests, and it's like it is important for us to get this message across because of the generation below us. You know what I mean? Because this thing has been going on for generations and generations and generations, and man, hopefully, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm with the Black Lives Matter movement. Obviously, there's some black people that have been with it. Like I spoke to a friend today, he said at the beginning I was with it, but he feels that now it's been blown out of proportion. Like any little thing, people bring out their camera phones. Oh, if anyone gets stopped.
That's different. I think, you know what, there's some people that are still, with anything, there are people that are just going to take it and use it to do some whatever. I think there's just people on the fringes that you can't really use those people to judge the movement per se, because, you know, no matter what, if you said you were saving all the puppies and you had different branches, there'll be somebody that wants to, wants to use it to steal money. Yeah. So you can't judge the whole movement based on, yes, I mean, it's actually really annoying because when you see people bring out cameras in front of a policeman, you haven't even asked them what they stopped you for. You know, it hasn't even gotten to that stage. I watched a video of a guy on a bicycle and he kept shouting at the police, shouting, yeah, you're stopping me. What are you stopping me for? Why don't you ask that guy over there? I mean, like, things are going to change, but it's not going to change like, boom, now police don't stop you anymore. Now, they perceive us as a threat. That the whole point of this Black Lives Matter is to get them to acknowledge and to enlighten them that, every time you're thinking, you're profiling, so that they can check themselves that, we're profiling, but it's not going to happen overnight. they're still gonna get it wrong. But we need to be able to have that conversation so that they can change, make amends, look at themselves in the mirror per se. But if we have black boys going around sticking cameras in their face, shouting and screaming, then someone that saw you as a threat, you're a threat.
I mean,
Too much of anything's bad though.
yeah. I
Too
mean,
much water,
that
you
whole
drown.
sticking cameras in their faces. I think it's similar to one of the conversations we had last week about getting stopped by the police and how to behave. Some people who have had that shit all their lives, where for no reason you're walking down the street, the police stop you and they harass you. If that's been your life for the past 10 years, for example, it doesn't change one day after a protest. The police are stopping you. You're not gonna not pull out your camera. Do you know what I mean?
Just in case.
That's been
Just in
happening to you
case.
all your life. That
When
is
you can,
almost
yeah.
and what do they call it? It's a knee-jerk reaction. It's just it comes natural to you. You need to defend yourself. Who knows? Because people are around now, people can see. But who knows if this was 5 years ago
And
when
it's the same
when it
thing.
wasn't rampant? Who knows what the police would have done? So I think you need to be sensitive to some of these things. Why you need to understand why some people do the things they do. It's because it's not the same for everyone. It's not the same experience for every black person. It's not the same experience for every policeman, right?
Yes.
Some policemen are actually off their heads with next kind of,
Power.
and their bias isn't even subconscious. It's fully they know exactly what they're doing, and they will target people.
Which is what I was gonna say, that we need to be aware that police officers and people of other races, they also have their own biases, but they also have a lot of subconscious biases that they don't necessarily realize until you really show it to them. So
Some of them are on a
we also
madness for
have
sure.
to bear that.
I said what you're saying, but I guess and there are people that are like that have gone through it 10 times. But then I feel like there's a bigger population of people who are looking for Twitter likes.
Yeah, 100%,
views,
100%.
Thingies, and they are roaming the streets, and
That was Ruth's point initially
using it to be
about
like,
social media. That's just the world. That's the world we're in, though. It's unfortunate, but that's the world we're in.
But you know, one thing that gives me a bit of like, I don't know, it gives me a bit of peace of mind is that Twitter. I know there's a lot of people on Twitter, but how many people are really on there? Like when I click
That's a lot
off,
of
I kind
people.
of want to
But,
feel like that's it.
I
That's
love this
Twitter.
topic. You know what? I love this topic because about people hijacking stuff. Because I remember a story like that of a certain DJ that said that they don't get booked because they're female. DJ Sean, you're a DJ. I think you should enlighten us about
Who said?
Gender roles.
Who said this?
And it became a sexist thing. I mean, you're a DJ as well. So we're amongst DJs, and DJ somebody's there as well. It became, the person was playing that they were basically, maybe I don't know whether this is the right word.
What?
It's like, you know how they say racial tropes or whatever. It was like a sexist. It was clickbait.
It's
it
the
was
gender pay
clickbait,
gap.
It was join me.
It's the gender pay.
No, I think one thing we spoke about earlier is that if you're going to employ someone who's black, they need to be at the level you want. So I think people also abusing movements to try and get something they haven't earned yet. And I see that a lot. So because if I go on Twitter and go like, yo, I'm black, apply to a law firm, they didn't call me again for an interview. Nobody knows anything else
It's like,
about
was your
it.
application
All of a
Because
sudden,
trust me, that's gonna happen.
they're like,
That's gonna happen.
why is this law firm not thinking? So like,
And that will be
I
the.
have a
That,
lot of friends who are white.
Change the topic to Black Lives Matter. Is it being abused?
all right, cool.
is it being?
That's okay.
Let's start from Sean then. And
Sean Teasel.
Is it being abused? Like I said, like I mentioned earlier, and you guys obviously said when there's a movement, there's always going to be people that do abuse the whatever's going on. But I do feel like there's some people that are trying to make more out of it, which is wrong. Because at the end of the day, not all police are bad. You know what I mean? Not all police are bad. There's white people that like black people, and it's not a thing where, if a policeman is speaking to you, you come out and say, is it because I'm black? All these things or whatever. So I do feel like, as much as we're trying to make a statement, I feel like there are some people out there that are trying to like exaggerate things, and I feel like we need to be careful where we're going with this, because those people that are trying to exaggerate things, might just throw things out the window, and then we won't even be heard at all. You know what I mean?
The thing is, no other race has to have this type of worry, because you don't see white people being worried that the white supremacists are ruining it for them. You don't see that. You just see those white people who don't agree with that supporting Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, because white people, they've never really, had to experience
racism. We have to acknowledge as well that that's a part of their privilege on one hand, that they are not tied, their identity is not just tied to their skin color. They can just be a white person and just not support that white person because his views are extreme. Do you get? But as Black people, why do we have to be the ones policing the other Black people who are not behaving the way we want? We should be able to just say, well, I'm Black and I don't support that. And you step away.
It's a double-edged sword.
That's a space that I want to live in.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to make up for all the Black people behaving bad.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. But it's a double-edged sword, because that's the way the society sees you. Societies don't see a white person and say, all white people are the same.
So where is our issue?
But they see a Black person and they say, all these guys, they all act the same way. And that's why the attitudes, I'm speaking generalistically, but that's why certain people's attitudes towards, for example, this has happened to me before, by the way, walking down the street on my way to my house, walking past the car, and there's a lady in the car, and you just hear the click, click. She's locked the doors. Man, she doesn't know what I do for a living, and she was a dead Fiat Ponto or something like that.
Skin.
I know I drive a Range. Not that there's anything wrong with the Fiat Ponto.
You're not gonna get mad at her because you understand.
Of course, I couldn't be mad at her. I actually, that kind of thing happened, and I just laughed, and I was like, you know what?
You're
at the end of the day,
enough, but at the same time, I'm not going to be in the same light. I'm not gonna be worried. I'm not gonna make an excuse or have to explain other Black people who are behaving.
Of course, and we shouldn't need to.
Yeah, and I don't, and I think that also has to become almost like as a form of protest for me, because I don't need to excuse it. And I'm also not going to sit there and allow someone to make me feel bad about it. I'm just going to say what I'm saying and keep it pushing. And
actually, to Sean's point, at the end of the day, you just got to keep focused. Exactly. Those things are going to happen, but we all just need to focus on our own goals.
And
people are going to take it. There'll be trolls. There'll be companies who are doing stupid stuff. There's a company who did a blackface for their models to support Black Lives Matter.
Did you see what Pretty Little Thing did? They did hands, right? They did a black hand, a white hand, and I'm guessing an Asian hand because it's a weird color. But then what they did was they painted the black hand, black fingernails, black palms. It was literally like someone just clicked one color on each thing. So people felt it was very lazy activism. Even if you're just performing,
do you know?
But the thing is, it just shows that there's no Black person in the office.
Yes, that's
all it
that's
shows.
the point I was going to raise. That these companies don't have Black people in their offices.
But
so
then that's why the show up.
Does that mean there's Black people see? Because I think
no, because they don't have senior management has to go.
They don't have representative Black people because you can have Black people that don't say anything.
She's an immigrant. Everything she's saying.
Oh no! That was a different matter.
That
was a politician.
She's a politician married to a white person.
She's not going to say anything against. She's not going to say anything against the party.
Or the race she's married to.
Wow.
I mean, she's also married to a certain race and class, so she's got to uphold
next
that.
topic, I guess.
What's she married to?
What's the topic? From the topic.
A white gentleman. But
Okay.
He's a gentleman.
So I think we're about to get into
some
another
ties in his
topic, right?
history.
And
no quick summary of everything.
man, these guys, they've been giving us monologues. Let's move to the next topic.
Because you guys
Let's
talk.
move to the next topic. And I think the next topic is interesting because the next topic is, because I've heard what you guys were just saying now, is that do people that are, I don't know how to frame the question, but help me out. Like people that are interracially married, how does that affect their views to race? So like, can a white person be married to a Black person still be racist?
Yes.
You know that I'm trying to form the question. I haven't formed the question yet.
Just
so
put.
help me out, and I want to say in both a negative and a positive way, because I was reading the other day that the chief content officer at Netflix is married to a Black person, and I saw that and I was like, oh wow, makes sense.
Makes sense.
All their content is like pretty much Black
right now.
So like, how does that affect? Does interracial marriages support our cause? I guess that's what I'm saying.
I think to an extent it depends. Because I had a very interesting conversation last week with someone from my mother's church. I grew up in, he's married to a black woman, and we got into it because he believes, he's an engineer by trade, he believes that no statues should be taken down. So he's like, I understand, but his justifications were attacks when it came to the other people. So he believes, yeah, these people did horrible things a long time ago. However, the things holding, black and ethnic minority people back right now is themselves. So as much as he understood the history, right? But as a white person, he was very much in his belief that, okay, yeah, they did bad things, but the statue should stay because they're important to a certain group of people. However, black people can't be worried about statues from the past when they're not doing things right now to help themselves. And his examples in a different chat were certain things like, certain cultures don't want their women to go to school past a certain age, or certain cultures will encourage marriage because they believe women are a certain way. So he's looking at it like, well, how can black people want to move forward when in Nigeria it's still more of an incentive for women to get married? So I felt like his viewpoints were racist.
You said he's married to a
black woman.
Is she African?
Yes. She's from Southern Africa, which is a different. I don't want to give my opinions on them,
and
but
he's
white,
British.
It's interesting because when you first started, I was about to dismiss his point of view completely, but then as he went on and he talked about women marrying as opposed to going to work, I guess that's what he was trying to say.
Yeah, amongst others.
I think there's a conversation to be had with him on that. I see why he might see that as an issue and why that might. But what I see ultimately is that is such a small part of. I think if you take two countries and you say one country half of the population shouldn't work and the other one everyone should work, there's going to be positives and negatives on both sides. So on one side it might be like there's less crime, or on the other, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but there'll be positive and negatives on both sides. But when the issue is systemic racism, a lot of people don't get what that means, because it's not that, we're killing each other or whatever.
It's not even
it's
obvious.
Like, we don't have a chance.
Yes.
And some of the statements that he made are unfortunately very ignorant.
Thank you.
And as a man, he's blinded by his privilege.
He apologized.
He's unable to see things that are within his own in his own country. Women were not even allowed to vote in his own country until they fought for that right to vote. So don't start saying things like in your country, because that's just complete nonsense. It's our job and his wife's job, I hope, that they educate him. And that's why it's important
but I think
for the protests to happen and people to get educated.
I think also it's his job to have an open ear the minute he decided to go for someone from a different culture that he didn't live in or understand.
And I think it's definitely, we need to have the conversations, because like the thing is, it's easy to be in a bubble and not to see beyond your bubble. Which is why I said I get what he was saying, I get what he was seeing, but those conversations need to be had, because we can change people's minds, like, because they're not walking in our shoes, they can't see what it feels like to walk in our shoes. So until we tell them, and which is why I feel like people say violence is not necessary. I think this thing will not be on the news if it wasn't violent. Like a peaceful protest does not make news.
Like a lot of these protests are actually still going on in America, but because the violence has been eradicated, it's not even on the news no more. It's not on the news no more.
A producer just sneezed.
And you people didn't bless him.
Social distancing.
Hay fever.
What's no? Those, yeah.
We're not done. Okay. I think it's definitely possible for. We're not done. We're just carrying on. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and you asked the question, or someone asked the question of, is it possible to still be married, to be in an interracial relationship and be racist? And that's why I said yes, and I came forward with my example. same difference. Potato, potato. The loving law applies to
Oh,
everyone.
let's say interracial
Put
marriage,
a-
because some
put a
people
ring
can
on
be
it.
interracial relationships.
You gotta put a ring
for
on it
all
to
sorts of
count.
reasons.
Okay,
We know-
marriage
we
then.
know-
It's
we
more
know-
of a commitment. But I think, yes, it's very much possible. And to still have mixed race children, that's why I have a lot of mixed race kids who can't have the conversations. No one had that conversation with them. So I think it's very possible to grow up in an
I
environment.
struggle to believe that interracial marriage is somebody can be racist and
Well, so I mean,
can be
obviously,
racist and
obviously,
have a
obviously,
The definition of being racist
obviously,
is-
racist is a big word.
Yeah.
But they can be not anti-racist.
yes.
Do you understand what I
They
mean?
can be like, I
Yeah,
love this
they-
person.
none
but I hate
against
this-
race.
Hold on.
Yeah,
you see people who like, I love this person, but I hate everyone else in their race.
But
Uh-huh.
that's why I say, yeah, you can't. That's why I call racist,
It's-
though.
It's possible.
Racist, but
I mean, it's
that-
for sure. It's
that
possible.
word, defining that word,
Tomato,
is difficult for me.
tomato.
I don't even know where.
Well,
to
okay, let's put it
Potato,
this way.
potato.
It's right to be so you can be in an interracial relationship, marriage, and you can still be prejudiced against people from that race.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yes, you can be.
Okay,
You can
okay.
still
Okay,
you can still be
let me tell
biased
you what
against
my
them.
confusion is.
So
Let me-
yes,
But
you,
then that's like saying you can't be racist,
You
though.
can, for example,
well, you can be.
If you say prejudice,
Well, you
that's
can be.
not the
You can
same.
be big. You can be.
I like the use of
Bigoted.
prejudice over racist, because
All of them.
it's problematic if I say racist, because you can be, let's say somebody is in a marriage with someone who is I don't know, Caribbean, but they don't like Caribbean people. What is that?
Why don't they like Caribbean
No, no,
people?
no.
Most
They just
times,
say it's
their
an
partner
example.
is also
They
going
don't.
to be self-hating on
They
Caribbean
don't.
people. So
But they don't. I just use Caribbean as an example.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like-
In your example,
Because the thing is
what's
that
the reason?
the point I'm trying to make is that racist, which is why I like when you said prejudice, because racist is a very loaded term. So lumping it on that person that because they don't like black.
Yeah, because it will no longer be.
okay, but
It will no longer
what do they like about that person then?
I don't know this like
because it will
Because
no longer
obviously-
be
Theory.
an issue of the color of the person's skin.
Do you know
right?
why it's tricky?
It
when
won't be that.
No, I don't agree.
Well, it
because
won't. Sorry,
depending on the colour of
sorry.
their skin,
Well,
it's got something
what
to
I
do
mean,
with
what I mean by that is,
identity.
if a Caucasian woman married a Caribbean black man,
yeah.
and for some reason we've discovered that this Caucasian woman is racist, let's say.
I can tell you what she likes.
This is me from
It-
Instagram. It said, when you made a comment regarding the guy, you said
What guy?
you don't even want to talk about those people being.
Oh, the South African
Yeah.
lady and the
There's a comment saying that's xenophobic.
Well, I don't
Wow.
think that's xenophobic
Let's-
because that's a whole different topic. We can address South Africa and Southern
Let's define these
Africa.
terms, because some of them
Yeah,
are
we can.
big words for me.
Xenophobic.
Xenophobia is a prejudice against people of the same skin color, I guess.
no different nationality.
Nationalities. I
So
wouldn't
xenophobic
say
is
that.
the-
I would say
Xenophobia
that.
is the hate of foreigners.
Hate
Yeah,
of foreigners.
because
wow.
it's a fact of the matter is that
believe.
there's an issue
Let
of
me Google
xenophobia in those countries. It's what I was referring to. We can have a conversation about Southern Africa, but they are very much different as far as
Hate of different
Western Africa.
nationalities.
Because we
dislike of
don't
people.
have as many instances
Or
of
they use
xenophobia
prejudice
in
as well.
South Africa.
It's
However,
interesting.
in South Africa,
We're
it is an
hitting
issue
we're hitting on a topic I like,
which should
because
be addressed.
that's
on
what
its
has
own right.
definition of xenophobia. We're going off course a bit now, because it's a dislike of people of different nationalities. And I'm not saying I have
Or countries.
dislike of people of different nationalities, but to a certain extent, doesn't everyone have a likeness of something that is like them?
Yes, that's human nature.
Can that not be framed as a dislike? I'm not trying to excuse. I'm not an apologist for anything, because I've been labeled once today. I don't want to be labeled twice. So, like, if you like something that's like you, and this boils down to what racism is as well. If you like what is similar to you, is that not that far off from disliking what is not like you?
I think it's not that far off, but I think when it comes to racism or like a specific ism is when the thing you dislike is that singularly. Like everything comes right back to that. You explain all your differences back to that. When we all know as humans, there are several reasons why someone might be a criminal. There are several reasons why someone might be a deadbeat dad. There's several reasons why someone might be wealthy, not just the color of their skin. But if you equate everything to the color of their skin, I think then you have an ism and you're a racist.
So
it's different.
xenophobia will be equating everything to
Like in South
nationality.
Africa, yes, they believe that Nigerians, Congolese, everybody else coming to South Africa was taking their jobs when everybody else, like other countries in Africa, were looking like, hey, your country has been violated by white people
so
for
the
a long
Nigerians,
time,
when they
but
just
you're
start-
blaming us.
The Ghanaians. They're
Yes, that was an act of
xenophobic.
xenophobia. That's why till today we still have Ghana must go bags. It was brandished that for a reason. The people who made that bag did not call it Ghana must go.
Believe you
But
can't
growing
sell
up
it.
in Cameroon, I knew it was called Ghana must go for that reason. So
Capitalism at its best.
it is what it is.
That is it
Do
right
you know
there.
what? Even with the Nigeria and Ghana is a very good example when it comes to black people staying together. In Ghana, the fact that they speak Tree and a huge proportion of the country speaks that one language, I think is a big unifying factor compared to Nigeria,
How
where
is,
you
how's that
have.
a fault? Is that not like
It's not a fault. I said it was a good thing.
no?
That
I mean,
was the-
Nigerians speaking so many languages.
that was
It's
the-
not a fault. I'm
That's
just
not-
saying,
That
as
was the
far
British
as an example,
who came to
it's
conquer
the
and-
British and everyone
the
else,
reason
but it's
I'm-
an example.
Sorry. The reason I'm jumping is that you're implying that Ghanaians are sticking together because
I'm
of
not
that.
implying
But
that they're sticking
I'm
together.
trying
I
to
said they
imply
have a
that
reason.
We were forced together,
So were they.
regardless of.
So were they.
Yeah, but we were forced together with
It's
so
just the
many
largest-
different
it's
languages.
the largest space. It's the
I'm
largest
not even
piece
talking
of
about
land.
space. I'm talking about languages because the language is what you.
If
the
they
point you are
if
making.
they conquered smaller piece of land, they would have conquered fewer languages.
See, okay, it's, regardless of the size of land, the size of land doesn't matter because you were making a point that Ghanaians, like, it's a good thing that
They have a
Ghanaians
unifying
are
factor.
unifying because they speak.
No,
the
I think
same
she was
language.
saying it's a good
It
thing
helps.
that they have the language because
Yes,
it
I'm
helps
not
them
saying
unify.
that
So it's
makes
not
them better than
doesn't make
anybody.
them,
Let's
but
not
it's
talk
I'm not
about it.
saying- I'm
it's
not-
definitely easier for Ghanaians to
Yeah,
be
but-
to be
I was
unified
just
by
giving an
language.
example to a point you made. I was actually supporting a point you made
Which point did I
earlier.
make? I can't remember my points.
Me either, but I know
It's
it was
just
relevant.
fire for fire over here. See
Rah.
some
Boom,
arrows
boom, boom.
flying across.
No, I just
Across
like
my
to
chest.
make sure that the points I'm
But-
making are clear.
But the thing is, yeah, I just feel like when it comes to the topic, there's actually black people that can't stand black people.
Other black people.
Yep.
Or self-hate.
That's got to do.
Is
Well,
it self? Is
because-
it
only
self-hate?
because of the color of the skin?
To,
Is it
no.
only because of the color of the skin?
Sometimes
So
it's cultural.
you know what a good way to always to figure out why people say the things they say. It's a very easy thing that they teach you in consulting is to ask them the 5 whys and then ask them literally that question 5 times. Why? So you don't like other black people. Why? Because they are noisy. Why?
No, it's for some black
Let him
people.
finish the 5
No,
words.
no, no.
I wanna see where it
No,
goes.
for some.
Well, okay, no. So you're saying obviously it's not
No,
Sean saying.
for some black people, it's just a thing of it might be the establishment they work. They might work in an establishment where they've got loads of white friends that look down on black people, and because of that,
Why do they look down on them?
for whatever reason,
What do you
I see
what
that as a
reasons do
product
you
of
think?
Systemic racism.
could be
Because some people have been- some people have
basically,
been
and it could also be a thing in terms of
brainwashed.
class as well.
People have to brainwashed to not like black people. So
Do you think some people? What about people who just weren't educated? Like they're just ignorant. They just don't know.
I see that as brainwashed as well. So I mean, like, so he was talking about a black person that because of where they work, they don't like other black people. But I see that as just like, because the system is designed in a way, the system is telling you that, yeah, black people are this, they're that, they can't make it up. There's no who you should associate with, whatever. So they've bought into that narrative. They see themselves as the token black person that's gonna break into the white world or whatever.
The
it is.
good black person.
So they are, brainwashed as far as I can see.
Nailed it. Basically, that's basically what it is.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
reckon?
Yeah, I mean it's jumping on the sorry.
You're excused. As
But yeah, I
in-
guess it's jumping on the narrative that's been provided for you when you walk into that workplace. Sorry, I was just saying it's provided just to support, kind of back up what Falabi's saying. Yeah, the brainwashing. It's just a narrative that's been created, and you walk into that environment where there's that narrative, and you hear it wherever you go, and you buy into that, and that kind of bubbles inside of you, and that's what you start spitting out, and it turns into something that you don't even know why you say it, but because it's said around you, and it's wherever you go on TV, you know the movies, it's black people being arrested, or them being noisy, or them being this or whatever. That's kind of what then goes into your head, and everybody, not just other black people, but everyone, and then people have this idea of. I'll tell you a very funny story. When I was in university, I used to work in a student liaison office, and we used to help international students when they come over to kind of settle into the uni, whatever. So this summer, a bunch of the students came from China, and when they got down from the bus that brought them from the airport, I was the first person to kind of like welcome them, and there was this one guy, Chinese guy, and he'd come down and he was basically just staring at me. And he kept staring at me, and I was like, "Hi, welcome to Loughborough. That's the whatever." And as he was walking past, he was literally, his head turned 360. He's still walking, but he's staring at me.
So
I go and I ask one of the girls who was working with us, who's also from China, what's going on with this guy? Why is he staring at me? She goes, "I'm gonna go and talk to him." And then the guy's hysterical. He's shouting, he's pointing at me, and then she comes over and she goes, "You know, the guy was like, he's never seen a black person before. He came to Heathrow. So when he landed at Heathrow, it was the first time he'd seen a black person, and he kept checking if they had tails." I don't understand. Literally, this is what she said. She said, the guy, he actually thought that black people, that they had tails, and because he was like, "Oh, all they see on TV are it's them being portrayed in this kind of way," that he'd never seen it. That when he got to Heathrow, he was shocked to see them work. He was like, "What, they work? They work in the airport?" And he's come to Loughborough and he's like, "Oh, look, there's one here. Where's this tail?" And he's like, literally, he was turning around.
That explains. A lot of people go to China and say that whenever black people, that people are always trying to take their pictures.
I was in Malaysia and I was trying to go shopping.
It's part of this whole narrative of what's been shown to you, and that's what you buy into.
I saw something online. Was it like there's like a black museum or something?
No, there was an exhibition that went kind of viral from China a few years ago because they had a display. There was an artist who does work specializing like comparing black people to monkeys. So he had the whole exhibition up, and loads of people went to see it. That was the
I saw that.
So I was actually thinking about that. I was gonna say, like, when you hear stories like that don't seem so odd, do they? It would make sense for black people, for Chinese people to want to see that.
Yeah.
They don't. And I mean,
I couldn't stop laughing, man. He was looking for the tail.
This is a bit mad.
It's funny, but it's not funny. But
yeah, it's like that's the sad thing about ignorance.
I laughed, and I was thinking, shit. If
like this, that's all they see on TV. These people are rappers, they're gangsters, they're this, and literally that is what was in his head. So much so that he couldn't believe it.
I mean, like, I think obviously he's to an extreme. I think, but we're all brainwashed with that narrative because, like, you know what? I came out of my house one day late at night. I was gonna go and get something for my car. I saw two black boys wearing, like, you know, is it balaclavas? That's what they were wearing, and I was just like,
Let's get it straight.
I was conscious.
Quick one. The lady on Instagram Live thinks xenophobia, lack of prejudice against people from other countries. Just because you didn't want to talk about South Africa, she thinks it's because of.
Oh, I think that was more like.
Can you please explain why you chose not to talk about the lady from South Africa in your comments earlier?
Oh, but I personally think xenophobia has like it needs to have its own conversation. Maybe we can talk on it next week. But it's a big thing because there's other instances of it in African history that even we aren't aware. Before the stuff in South Africa, like the Ghana must go issue, that's stuff that I'm sure a lot of Africans aren't even aware. No, but I have my own trauma as far as South Africa. I have my own reasons for why I'm not ready to go there. But those are personal because of actual personal reasons. But I don't have an issue with South Africa. I actually quite love it. I think she's taking it a bit personally for a fleeting comment, but I mean, if she wants to talk about xenophobia, we can have a proper conversation about it. But yeah,
interesting. She gets a lot more African perspectives.
It's something that isn't just South African as well, and it's not just West African. There's xenophobia in East Africa, Uganda.
Interesting stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anybody I dislike because of certain whatever.
No.
I think I dislike people because of their views. Someone's views can just like. I can't think of anything that's like.
Viewophobia. That's what it's called.
Yeah. So yeah.
I'm sure there's an actual
There
word
must
for
be.
it.
Yeah, because some views are just like, let's not even, you know. But apart from that,
Yeah,
race.
but obviously, some people could say that the
have
relationship
preferences.
between Nigeria and Ghana is a bit xenophobic. But I would say Nigerians and Ghanaians
okay.
kind of they don't because
Let's
I
talk
say
about that.
I say they
Any Ghanaians,
use
eh?
it
Well,
as a bit
Francis
of
is left.
banter.
God, Francis.
So
is-
the
But it's
relationship with
actually got a
Nigerian and Ghanaians.
traumatizing
I mean,
history.
I don't even know when Ghana must go happen. My history is not that great. They don't teach us great history in Nigeria.
Nope.
So I don't know when it happened.
They teach
But
us
I
about
think
Lord Lugard.
Ghana and Nigeria, to me, it seems like social media banter. I don't actually see the beef between them.
There's no
Like,
beef, man.
yeah.
Ghanaians
beef.
and Nigerians love each other.
Yeah,
There's
so
no
it's
beef
like
anymore, but when Ghana Must Go happened, it was
that's why
a
I said
beef
I don't know
because,
when that
because
happened.
Nigerian students in Ghana were also kicked out. It
Yeah, I
was
think
both
so.
sides.
I think,
It
and they were
was a
salty
big
about
deal.
it. Both sides were a bit salty about it.
There were people from that generation talk about it. It's not something that is just because you and I only know because I have grandparents that are over 100 years old. I know because there's loads of older people that I grew up with in my village who tell you these things, but I don't expect it to be common knowledge. So whenever I get a chance, I'll share it. But there are things in our own African history that bring us, that make us more, I don't know, more similar than otherwise.
Interesting. So Ghanaian jollof or Nigerian jollof?
Ghanaian. Because
What?
they use basmati.
Why?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's ask the 5 whys. Why?
Because they use basmati rice.
Why?
Why did they use basmati?
Because
This is not
it
working.
holds on
You
to
say
the
why.
flavor a bit more. It's just like smaller grains. It's nicer. Keep going.
Now we're just having a random conversation.
Yeah,
Why?
you said there's 5 whys.
Are we wrapping up here?
We'll wrap up this one after. Well, do you have another question? Sean has a question for us, but yeah.
After this,
After the 5 whys,
I think we maxed out at 2, to be honest.
I mean,
Doesn't
Well,
look like
do you
us.
know- do you
Doesn't
know
look
what?
like us
And they
words.
cut the meat in little smaller pieces. It's
apparently,
nice.
I like Ghanaian jollof rice. So long. I didn't even know it was Ghanaian jollof rice. Maybe we're
You just
busy
like the rice.
beefing, whatever. I just said, oh, this rice is tiny grains. It looks good. It's like singular. It's not mushy. I was like, okay, that's cool. For a long time, people were saying Ghana, whatever, jollof rice. Just like,
I'm not Ghanaian, by the
It
way.
cannot-
I think actually the best jollof is from Sierra Leone. So people
isn't
need
like,
to.
Yeah, they're not the ones that invented it.
Sean is laughing.
It's the
Sean's
Gam-
like,
it's
it was
actually
disgusting.
not
I've never tasted it,
Guys,
so I wouldn't even.
The original jollof was
Sierra Leonean
invented by the
jollof.
Wolof tribe, and they existed
I'm joking, by the way. It's
both
not.
across Senegal and the Gambia.
I'm joking.
Are you Sierra Leonean, yeah?
They were the. No, I'm not.
But I've seen Nigerian jollof that's like single grace.
Gambia.
So the
According to one
Wolof
person on Instagram,
people.
why do you do this? You use one person
According
to kill everybody else.
According to one person,
Yeah.
my mom's jollof is the best jollof.
I
Case
agree.
closed.
Yeah.
If we're all gonna
Case
do
closed.
that, then Cameroonian jollof is better. I like mine.
Let's-
But if we're
let's
gonna
move
talk
on.
about the origin of the thing, let's just stick to Chebodian.
You guys have jollof
Yes, we do.
made with rice or
No, it's made with rocks.
beans jollof.
This is xenophobia
Potato
101.
Okay, Sean.
Xenophobia. Yeah.
What?
There's no one else.
How are we for time?
Yeah, I think
last
we're
question?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay.
We're good.
Ah, cool. Cool. This is just a yes or no thing, isn't it? Obviously, basically, with the R. Kelly thing, it's a thing where I think all his music got taken down off.
That's actually not true, but yeah, it was taken down briefly, but keep
Yeah, it's taken down briefly. I don't know, but in terms of like, obviously, in the club now, I think there was a time when I was in the club and I think I was at a wedding actually. I was at a wedding and I played an R. Kelly track, and it's like the way everybody turned and looked at me, and it was like, okay, wow, like, you know what I mean? And like, it's like his music, it don't get played on like, I can't remember the last time I heard an R. Kelly track on radio. And
this is deep. This is deep. I'm trying to form my thoughts.
I just said yes or no because we want to go home. And even in the club, you can't even play his music. So let me just get to my point. Obviously, we've got this thing going on with the band right now, and obviously, I think I saw a DJ. He tweeted yesterday saying, "Oh, that means like any DJ that means that any DJ that plays
That's
D'banj Fall in Love.
Was it true? The D'banj thing.
I don't know. I don't know, but
Okay.
let me drop my point. He says if you play D'banj Fall in Love and Wanna Feli Feli, which are two of the hottest old school tracks.
Tough, innit? It's tough.
Obviously, he's like, does that mean?
This is not a yes or no question, boss.
Does that mean D'banj's music is cancelled too?
First of all-
Wait. So obviously with the R. Kelly thing, that one is like it's on a worldwide basis. But you know, as Africans, even I mean, as you mentioned before, like with these things as well, as Africans, we don't like to like see our superstars as people that you know what I mean. But if it's true, do you think the Africans will cancel D'banj in terms of
Do you
his
think
music
they
being
will,
played?
or do you think
Yes
they should?
or no? That's it.
They will or should they? Or are you asking whether you think they will? Or
Yes or no?
My answer is not yes or no.
Hey, hold time.
I think it's unfair comparison because I think that you see, R. Kelly is. I don't see D'banj the way R. Kelly. In fact, I can't even cancel R. Kelly's music. I listened to R. Kelly's music probably in the last 2 or 3 days. I did.
But isn't that
as
more
much as you can hate his
disturbing?
crime, which is they say hate the what do they say again?
Hate the
Hate
crime.
the crime, not the
sinner,
person.
Don't
Yeah.
hate the sinner.
Yeah.
But yeah, his music
Or
is
the music of
his
the sinner.
music. R. Kelly's music is generational. You can't. talk
However,
about that
sorry,
period of time without-
just before you said that, do you know when R. Kelly wrote them songs?
What he
Depends
was
on the
doing.
tune.
What he was
I'm not
doing,
there with him.
and also who he was writing them about. So, for example,
Hey,
if he's
I
writing
think-
it's the remix
producer,
to Admission, and he's writing about a 15-year-old girl.
I think
Continue.
It
But all
can't-
I'm saying is that
next week.
That's deep.
But you haven't answered my
Cancel
question.
culture.
You haven't answered my
Well,
question.
my thing is that D'banj's music is not that important to keep playing.
No, do you know what? I'll even say, I'll go as far as saying, look, rape is what it is, but I think it's more of a problem when you deny it, right? Because I don't
As in
know.
the
I
perp,
don't
the
want to
perp.
say it,
Yeah.
but I think a lot, like, unless you're dead, you can be forgiven for stuff. I'm not saying that I'll forgive him. I'm just saying there's someone out there that will. I wouldn't cancel D'banj because it depends on how he handles the stuff.
he has
And
already
the
handled it
music is
wrongly.
not that important to the culture for it
He has
to
already
be a
handled it
big
wrongly.
statement.
What did he do?
So that's why.
Got the girl imprisoned or picked up.
Well,
Then
do we know if that's
they
true or
deleted-
not?
No, well, they deleted. Okay, see what we know that's true. All the tweets where she made the accusation has been deleted off her Twitter.
Instablog Niger
It has
already
now
has
been
it.
replaced with a video of the band promoting the band's new song.
Really?
Looks like a
A
threat.
statement saying, "Me and my mom have not been arrested." And another statement saying, "Somebody gave me the keys to the room," implying almost like somebody gave me the keys to the room, so I knew I was going there to meet the
Oh,
band.
okay.
So it's
Setting
been
up the
replaced by that
story.
those statements, which, you know, to the discerning eye would be like, doesn't seem
She's
like
been paid off or something.
something's happened somewhere. I mean, I'm not saying the band did it or not. I'm just saying that who plays the band's music in 2020?
No one.
His music still gets
I
played.
might play it too. I'm so
When
shy,
was the last time
shy.
you people
I'm a
played
shy guy,
Cococure?
shy.
I'm in shock.
Okay, who plays R. Kelly? You just said you listen to R. Kelly music.
I don't listen to R. Kelly,
I listen to
man.
R. Kelly. But you know what I think? This is another topic
I'm
completely
sorry.
because I feel like Afrobeats is the songs are about a certain time. R. Kelly type music is timeless. I feel, and you know, let's not go to how deep you're taking it to. But like, step in the name of love, whether it's in 2020 or 20.
Okay,
Where was
okay,
he stepping
okay.
from?
Yeah, and into. What was he stepping
What
into?
was in that closet?
Whose love? Whose love
What
is
was
he
in
stepping
that
into?
closet?
But his body is telling him yes.
The point
Why
I'm
was
making,
he
Why is his body telling him
See,
yes?
the
When
point I'm making-
his mind can see. No, hold on, Falabi. His mind has seen this girl, and his mind has told
I'm
him
not talking about R. Kelly's
she
music.
is
What I'm
underage,
saying-
but
what
his
I'm saying
body
is that
is
telling
saying,
you yes.
Yo, bro.
She
She
listen to
ready?
Bono Feli Feli
I don't even know
in
what that one means.
2020 properly. You can be like, what was that on about?
he could have been talking about the same thing.
First of all, I never knew what he was talking
What
about.
Bonaveli Feli means I'm really hot.
Okay.
He could have been hot for this girl who was also underage.
He could have been hot once he finished in that room.
So, I mean, look, man, I think at the end of the day, with all these things, somebody asked me this question actually last week.
let's treat them all the same.
Because I told the person I love Michael Jackson. And I was like, but even if
Michael Jackson, really?
even if Michael Jackson was like a kiddie fiddler, and I was like,
You wouldn't be able able to though.
I know,
You'd
and
be
then they asked me the same question
uncomfortable.
about R. Kelly, and I was like, man, I don't know, like I don't have the same love for R. Kelly as I do for Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's a legend. I love that guy's music. But look, at the end of the day, if a man has anyone, man, woman, has done things in their life and they've profited off things that are just despicable, my conscience can't allow me to enjoy the fruits of that.
I still feel bad for him.
For Robert.
Yeah.
I mean,
I still need him to get
Kelly's
help.
It's different because I think R. Kelly, we kind of know he's guilty. Not we kind of, we
We
know.
know.
Well, Michael Jackson, we can't say.
So that was the thing. I said, look, man, I don't even know if I don't know if he did it.
But
I
you
know
know
some
what,
people
with
said he did it.
MJ's, there was enough evidence to show where it could be possible, but there was also evidence to show where it could have been.
I don't want to believe it.
Setup. So we don't know. It never came out.
I don't want to believe it.
We don't know. But with R. Kelly, I'm sorry. Once 1, 2, 3 people came out, let alone everybody that did.
This is a deeper topic because, I'm not even thinking about pedophilia or kiddie porn.
No, Jeffrey Epstein.
I'm also thinking about if someone commits a crime and the court finds them guilty, and we cancel them, but then imagine they were not guilty because people are
wrongfully accused.
This whole cancel culture, it's the juries, they're gonna get the courts will serve them justice, so to say, but then do we have to double up on that justice?
I mean, I think that's a personal opinion.
If you're in the public eye, you have to be ready to live that life. Because you know what, Falabi? There are people who've committed crimes who've hurt millions of people, as in we're talking about bankers here who in a financial crisis scam people off,
killed themselves,
millions and millions, or some of them killed themselves. Yeah, where the people who couldn't pay their mortgage off themselves, people who have been directly affected, those people didn't go to jail. Those are the kind of people, but they're not in the public eye, so we can't cancel them. We don't even know what they've done.
Do nothing to them.
Those are the people that should be cancelled. I'm not saying the other people shouldn't be cancelled. But, out of all of that stuff, I think only 2 people went to jail and they were middle managers. They weren't even the toppers.
Like our friend,
Quico Adobe. It's just mad. But those people who are, they're not in the public eye.
What, did you know him?
They have
I didn't know.
they have accounts in the Cayman Islands.
Says like your
What did that guy say? If a black guy goes and commits a crime and you're there with him, they're like, is it what?
Guilty by association?
Nah, it's called which is another mad thing.
Illegal now.
That it's another way that they just incarcerate young people. It's called
what it's called.
joint enterprise.
Joint enterprise.
Joint enterprise.
Goodness.
Just a mad rule or law, whatever.
Joint
But
enterprise.
so you can also
Okay,
get.
now I understand why
You're
Corey
always close
called
to a
the
lot of
show
crimes.
The Enterprise.
I don't know what was that.
You remember the guy RS that did Roll Safe? He has
Yeah.
a new show called The Enterprise on BBC.
Okay. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
BBC 3.
Oh.
Okay, I didn't
That
know
makes a
Is
lot
that
of
what
sense
it's
because
about?
it touches on a lot of those. It's 3 young black people dabbling into trying to get work and obviously street life. It dabbles into all of that. It's interesting.
So next week, producer, what are we talking about?
Talk
Xenophobia,
about joint enterprise.
joint enterprise,
Yeah. I like that.
cancel culture.
Yes, cancel culture. Is it problematic? Should it stay? Should we get rid of it?
Are you rounding up? Yeah. So okay.
Those
So I
are the
can give
next
us a goodbye
topics.
speech.
And I think we should also talk about. I think we should talk about the clubs since the lockdown is
Are you
eased.
gonna come back?
Yeah. Since the club,
Update.
since the lockdown is easing off. Obviously, you're on this big, huge brand Cococure. What do you think of the?
Why you want me to talk now?
No, obviously not now, but obviously.
Let him get his.
What do you feel like the new government guidelines, how it will affect the club business and so
can
forth?
answer
So
that question.
no, not now.
I don't know.
Let's leave that to
Save it for next week.
Keep it for next week.
Don't tell them yet.
Save it for next week.
I mean, are we gonna be when the man and the ladies are whining? Is there gonna be a 1 meter gap? They're gonna be whining like this. Well, yeah, man, this has been fun.
you can
Thank
look what you
everybody
can
for
touch.
locking in.
Thank you for locking it, DJ Sean. DJ Sean always entertaining. You guys introduce. You should actually introduce yourself at the beginning. I should. Next week. Me too. I'll introduce myself next week.
You didn't even respect the start of
I'll
this.
introduce myself. Yeah, it was fun. Are we off camera?
Guys, if you're not subscribed yet
What
to
you
the
would-
newsletter, if you're not subscribed yet to the newsletter, go on Cococure website and do that.
My
If you want to
Microsoft.
know what topics we're going to touch on before the show starts, And also, if you
and
want to
yeah,
catch
don't
up
for-
on any shows,
Yeah, and don't forget also the helplines and the links as well.
yes.
The producer is gonna
how
put
sh-
them.
We're gonna
put
put
them.
that. We should put that on social media, right? We're gonna
Yeah,
put it
yeah.
on the story, on our Instagram story. I think that would be the best way because we can keep that in the highlights as well. But it'll just be a few lines if you want to talk to someone, if you've gone through anything we talked about.
And people.
Click on video on the top. Sign.
Yeah, you definitely need to be on the newsletter just so you stay on top of the topics, and then you can submit questions before we start the topics. That would be good.
And when you're done, switch off.